Hello and welcome to Flory Models Friday Roundup Show. Here we are with you on the 12th of August 2022 and the heat wave continues. Yes, it's been extremely hot. It's about 33 degrees yesterday here and it's been roughly around about 30 plus for the last, well, it feels like weeks. We've had no rain now for, we would say, around about 9 to 10 weeks. So everything is completely dead and crispy. And as I said, before everyone jumps on saying, oh, well, we've got it hotter and all the rest of it, don't forget, here in the UK, we are just definitely not used to it, not prolonged heat like this. And obviously it does affect the modelling as well. So from my point of view, here we are in the studio. I put a thermometer in here yesterday, around about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It's 43 degrees. Again, no air conditioning. I've got my little fan here, which I have running to try and keep somewhat cool, but just trying to work in this heat is really not pleasant at all. So what I've been doing is getting up really early in the morning, about 6:30, be getting on with any painting work, especially when it's nice and cool in the morning. And then that way, even if you are, with studio lights, respirator on, it's not too bad. But now, here we are, 10 o'clock? It's way, way too hot to be doing any type of painting. But we have been pushing along a lot with the Lancaster this week. We've been doing a lot of back and forth with it as well, just to make sure we are absolutely fine. And to be honest with you, some of that is making sure like this riveting and everything is back in, and you'll see that in the next part, which is going to be up with you on Monday, and we talk about making sure this riveting is done properly. And by that we mean is that when you've got it into primer, you can have a proper look. If it doesn't look good in primer, then's the time to go back. And that was definitely a point, because whilst it was there, it was too fine. And like I explained in the video, by the time it has 2 coats of paint in some cases, because you've got obviously the brown is on now, we're going to put the green on shortly. And then obviously we'll probably put some type of sealer coat down. We've got decals to go on, and then we've got a multitude of weathering that's going to go on this particular model. Very fine detail like that is just going to get absolutely lost. And obviously we don't want to lose that detail, because it is part of what makes this kit really, really nice. But generally it is all going very well. So the brown coat has gone down now. We did this one this morning and off in there. Then obviously what we'll do, we'll get this all masked up, and then obviously tomorrow morning at 6:30, I'll be back in the spray booth and we'll get down in there and we'll obviously get the green camo onto it. And then we'll probably wait another 24 hours, remask it, and we'll get the black work done onto it as well. And then hopefully then by next week, we'll be pushing nicely into decalim, and then we can seal that, and then we can get on with the weathering and all the rest of it. It's gone down really, really well. I'm using real colour paints with these, never had a problem with them. And if you use them with rapid drying thinners, they just work really, really well. But remember, in this heat, it's not so bad if you've got a little bit of humidity, although it's horrible for a person sat there. But if you've got a little bit of humidity, it's not too bad. But if it's really dry heat, you can end up with texture. And that is purely because by the time it exits the nozzle, and obviously it's been atomized, which means it can dry really, really quickly. Then obviously if you're in, as we would be in here, 40 degrees heat, the ambient temperature means it's going to dry before it hits the surface of the model. Then what happens is it basically just builds up on its own. And the reason for that is it hasn't got time to physically melt in. So think of rain hitting, it then becomes one, it's got time to level off, and you get a nice mirror finish. This is more like hail. So obviously it goes along, it sticks to each other, but it's very, very textured, and it's rough, and it gives you a horrible sort of rough texture to it. And some of that can be purely down to, a couple of factors, mainly being drying, or your paint is maybe a little bit too thick. To obviously get around that problem, especially in this heat, like I said, if you can, do it in the cool morning air. That's probably the best time you can totally spray. Around about 20 degrees, absolutely no-brainer, go for your life. But if you have to do it when it's hot, there's a couple of things you can do. One is obviously don't use a rapid drying thinner. Use something with a little bit of a retarder into it. So for lacquer users, I like to use something like the actual Mr. Colour leveling thinner. The retarder means it just takes a little bit longer to dry than normal. We're not talking hours, we're still talking seconds, but a few seconds whilst it's airborne can make the difference. The other things you can do is obviously turn your air pressure down. So obviously because your air pressure is thinner, you can thin the paint. So obviously low air pressure, thin the paint a little bit more. It means you can get closer to the surface of your model, which means it doesn't have long for it to dry. So if you're normally spraying around about 20 odd PSI and you're bang here, you've probably got 30 centimeters of travel between the nozzle and obviously getting onto the surface of your model. By thinning your paint a little bit more, you can move a little bit closer, which means if you can half that distance or quarter it even, it means when it hits the surface, it's still wet. The surface will be wet as well, and then it'll melt in to give you, hopefully, a very nice satin or if not glossy type finish. Even if you're spraying flat coats, and things like that, you can still get a nice satin finish, even if you're spraying Tamiya XF paints and things like that, all right? And they can go down, but it will just help you in this heat, especially. And I know obviously Europe's suffering from it. I know a lot of you in the US as well. We all seem to be having a bit of a heat wave at the moment. And it will just help you obviously give that vital seconds between obviously texture and it going down really well. So anyway, that's why. But if you can, just don't spray in the heat. It's one of the big questions I've been asked this week, how to go about it. If you're an acrylic painter as well, there's various retarders you can get out there. Tamiya make a retarder, Vallejo make a retarder. Some of them more are like gels, and you have to thoroughly mix those into your acrylic paint as well. But again, acrylics, in some ways, it's probably on a par now with using lacquers, because in the heat, lacquer goes off incredibly quickly. So do obviously acrylics. So you just need something in there. But if you can, lower your air pressure, thin your paint a little bit more, get a little bit closer. Obviously, you don't have that sort of drying time as it comes down and hits your model. That will really help you out, because again, there's nothing worse when you've got texture, and then especially if you're doing multiple coats. So say you've got a complex camo, perhaps 3-color camo, or even 4. If you're getting overspray areas, it's going to get worse and worse and worse until literally it's like a coarse sanding stick. I've done a full video on all of this, which if I quickly bring up a page, because I haven't thought about it till now. But if you want to learn all about textures, if you pop over to the Flory Models main site, so it's just florymodels.org, okay, go to tutorials up here at the top, just click that. This is free to watch. Anybody can see any of these. And obviously we've got the basic modeling series of videos, we've got the basic airbrushing one, and obviously we've got weathering and some of the others. If you just go into basic airbrushing, I've covered this in a full video talking about textures all the way through. So again, even if you're an old hat at this, this might be a good one for you. But down in here, we've got it. And basically, we talk about, obviously, thicknesses of paint. So you can see it looks a little bit grainy on there. And then, obviously, we do one with a sort of medium. And we're talking about distance and air and how it can affect. And then, obviously, if you have got texture, how to actually stop that. And I talk about it like a sanding stick. So we go from coarse through to medium. These are type of effects that the surface of your model is going to have. So if you've ever wondered why, suddenly your weathering gets stuck, or your decals, you've got lots of silver in, because the surface is like a coarse sanding stick. But obviously the more glossy you can get it, and the finer the actual surface and the finer of the grit, if you like, on there, will actually give you a better thing to weather on, to obviously to decal on, and obviously for the next coat of paint, because it's really easy to build these up right the way through. But that's down here. It's a standalone video. You can talk about, have a look at this one, and it's called Textures and Rough Finishes, and how I go about dealing with it, and how to sort of, negate it and all the rest of it. But again, you've got all the videos down in here as well. And then obviously, if you do go back, obviously we've got a full video build down in here as Bitesize as well. So you can just pop in here, and it's literally all the step-by-step photos. But also, it's got all the different areas down in here. So it talks about gluing, we talk about rescribing, we talk about sanding, re-riveting, rescribing, clear parts. Again, textures in that one as well, right the way down in that one. All right, so you can go through and see all of these just down in here. And obviously, we've got ones on weathering, covering all the basics right the way through. And we actually use this Revel kit, which is a really great kit for its price. And we talk about weathering, how we go about weathering right the way through. And we've got all the step-by-step videos down in there for obviously using it from the paint stage, and then right the way down to here to the actual finished one with oils and things like that. So again, oils, washes, all the rest of it right the way through. So literally we go from this to this, all the way. So again, if you want to see any of those, really simple, just go onto the tutorials area to say it's totally free. Anybody can watch them, no problem at all. And then obviously if you do want the free ones, we've got the classic build area. So you can just pop down in here, and all of these are full video builds of some of the older videos that we have on the go. All right. So you can watch any of those free to use. And obviously they are up on YouTube as well. So if you want to go off and see those, you can do. Anyway, this week all started on Monday with the Lancaster. Part 4 went up. Obviously, a lot of you have mentioned about this one being black, as I explained in the video. I know obviously a lot of you don't watch the videos because you're not members, but the reason it's in black is because I got far too excited and I wanted to make sure there was no fogging on the inside or any problem. So I unmasked it before going any further. And as I say, next week you'll see how I will paint that using the scratch technique right the way through. So it's a real simple way. I've always done it with turrets and things purely because I don't want to get it all finished and then find out if something's gone wrong on the inside. But anyway, we finished the work on the turrets, and again a little bit of clean-up work, things like that right the way through. They're done. We put the blister window inside of the Lancaster, and we talked about using extra thin glue to do it and how not to fog up, because obviously you don't want it fogging up or anything else like that, as you can see. So we talk about that little trick down in there. And obviously the engine's all going together. So the engine, talking about them going to the nacelles, it's a little bit of a fiddly fit because again there's no engine mount, so it really annoys me with the kit that it doesn't have it. but they do go in there just like that. And again, we've got those side ones going on, showing you putting those in right the way through. So anyway, members, you can go off and see part 4. That is up with you right now. Tuesday, it was me and Matt. Gonna make it. And we had up, obviously, the next in our series of Phil and Matt's Not Quite a Podcast show. It's a 1-hour show, and we just generally talk all things modelling and non-modelling related throughout the show. We've obviously got the live chat room up as well, so members can join in along with the live chat area down in there. We tend to do this one every 2 weeks on an afternoon, so a Tuesday afternoon. So if you want to come along and join in with that one, obviously, members, you can watch it live with us, or it is a recording later on, just like that. So that was me and Matt talking about what we're up to this week and where we're going. And then obviously on Wednesday, it was me and Andy with the PM show. So this is all the latest things that are going on with the PM model world up at our store in Doncaster. Obviously talking about new kit releases, what's coming in, what's going out, the pre-orders and everything, which I'll take you through in a moment, because it's been a very, very busy week. And needless to say, a lot we spoke about in that show has sort of been superseded now, because we've had nothing but deliveries in since Wednesday. So, for instance, the Airfix Buccaneers arrived this morning, so they're going to be invoiced and going out to you later on, guys, and usual things like that. And again, we were answering all your questions. It is free to watch. You can go off and see that one, and obviously you can see the latest deals and promotions that are going on with the PM store just in there. Thursday, Matt's show was up, so he's been carrying on with his modern infantry, part 5. This is the final touches, basically going on to this one. He's done an absolutely stunning job on this video, as we can see if I fast forward a little bit, and he talks right the way through, nice and detailed, about actually his little figure down in here. This is part of his Wimmick series, so he's got that Milan system on the Wimmick, and he's done the diorama base for it, and obviously there's a full video build of the actual Land Rover going together. He's also done one for the base, and now obviously we've done one of the figures. So I think next up for Matt will be obviously putting all 3 together for the final reveal. And again, some of you, the members, you would have seen that already, but obviously with editing and things, it takes a little bit longer to get all that sorted. All right. So anyway, that's a great job he's done in there. So he's spoken about obviously doing all the camo painting, all the weathering, painting of the figure, and everything else like that. So if you are interested, members, you can go off and see that. It is a standalone as well, so you can find that in the video build area on the actual forum itself. All right. It is pinned to the top. Next up is part 5 of the Lancaster. So we was obviously adding the actual engine nacelles on. Not a bad fit, but there is a couple of little bits just around in here you need to take care of right the way in. We had a look at the tail planes to make sure they're all good, and they're amazingly fit because it's brilliant. We talk about little tiny ghost seams and how to deal with them. So using a little bit of CA glue, and then obviously popping round with a razor saw to put in your panel lines, and then obviously for re-riveting as well, popping those in, and then using slower setting glue. So in my case, I love Contact TF Professional Revell stuff. I just find it's brilliant for doing big things like this. So big wing joints, stuff like that, especially in this heat. You don't want to be having stuff go completely off. And let's face it, Tamiya Extra Thin at 40 degrees just goes off instantly. And then obviously clipping it all together. So if you're wondering, these little guys here are actually poster hanging clips. If you look on Amazon, I often get asked about these. They're flat feeted. So what I mean by that is both they are flat. So it's designed not to mark a poster, and they are great for grabbing onto curved edges, and obviously for pinching closed trailing edges as well, because they've got a very big footprint on each side which grabs together. They're very strong as well. And again, they are really designed for hanging up posters, but they're great for this. But you can buy them by the dozen and half dozen on Amazon. Just put in paper hanging clips or poster hanging clips, and it comes up with those. Then it was getting those actual engine nacelles in. There's a little bit of a gap in here. It's the only thing I had a little bit of trouble with. So we needed a little bit of filler on one of them and a bit of sanding just to make those fit in perfectly well. But again, they did go in. And then it was last minute check. So I do this thing where I actually spray a little bit of flat black, and then we just sand it very lightly just to see what's going on. As you can see down in here, we've got a couple of little shadows coming through. Now they're going to show through in primer, and they're going to show through obviously in paint, so they needed to take care of it now. And this little guy just here is the remnants of our little CA glue and talc seam that we put down to make it seamless. It's worked perfectly, but we've still got a small step. It's a great way of showing any imperfections in your surface, so it's great to do that one. And then last up's the gear, which is great. It literally just clicks together, then just add glue at the end, and it's really strong. And I love the way you've got this sort of fork system clicks in there, so it's a really strong fit that can be put on at the last moment with no problem at all. So the gear is absolutely fantastic on that one. So that is up with you now. That is part 5. Obviously, part 6, we'll be talking about going through primer, tidying up, a little bit of rescribing, re-riveting, and we talk about doing that. And then obviously we'll be working our way through the camo, and that will be up with you on Monday. So I'll be trying to get the paintwork done tomorrow morning nice and early. So that one is down in there. All right. This week's reviews, only one. Hopefully we've got a lot coming in next week. I'll talk about that in a moment. But up with you was the Infinity models, 32nd Vampire. This is the Mark V. They also do the Mark III. And again, it looks an absolutely great kit. But it's not without a few little things. The design, you've got this sort of center seam system, which is a little bit strange, but I can understand it. Obviously, it's a one-piece lower. But the top is 2 halves that come together, which I can show you in here. Here we are, down in here. So you're going to have a seam down there. It's a strange way of doing it. I can understand why, because it's big. But all the other vampires tend to have that sort of clamshell system of it going together. Beautifully detailed, a little bit of photo etch as well. Really nice markings, even if we can't decide on quite where it's based, because I've had loads of messages on that. Decals, beautiful. And say, there's your photo etch, which is really nice as well. I've got all the harnesses. Clear parts are gorgeous. And again, it's a little bit flashy. You can see we've got some flash down, and these need tidying up. It needs a bit of a sanding stick all the way around, but you know, think a special hobby. It's not the sharpest, but once you clean it up, it's absolutely fine. Just needs a little bit of polishing, and you'll be good with that one. And again, not an overly complicated, but you've got some really nice details. And again, there's no things like ejector pins in wheel wells and stuff like that. It is cleverly thought out. But if you are a fan of the Vampire and the early jet era, in 32nd, it's a great scale aircraft. But we still can't work out where this is. I've now been informed that it's actually somewhere in Scotland, but without the cliffs and that, because it technically would be landing at an airfield in Scotland, because hence it's a Scottish squadron. But don't know. We were saying it's Beachy Head. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, that is up with you right now as well. If you want to see any of the reviews that we do, just pop along to the review section. I've got loads due up next week. We've got some of our old classics down in here, as well as obviously the bang up-to-date ones as well. And again, if you want to find them via the manufacturer, just click on the links up here, and that will take you off to there. Speaking of, obviously, various things that have come in, over at the PM store, the pre-orders are piling in literally as we speak. So the 2 big ones, and hopefully I'll get these reviews done for you next week or within the next 2 weeks. First of all, the Buccaneer is out and is in stock. Members, obviously, you're going to get invoiced today for your discount on that one. And again, it looks to be absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to have a look at it. I'm not going to be building this one, like I've said before, because I've had lots of people asking. I'm going to hold out for the RAF one, because obviously I did the 72nd baby one as the actual Royal Navy one. So I thought we'd do one of each, and they could be a side-by-side. The other one that I'm really looking forward to getting next week as well, Matt's sending down to me, is the new 48 scale Lightning II. It'd be interesting to see it. It looks great in CAD, but we'll wait to say judgment on what it looks like in the flesh. Because again, we only have the Kitty Hawk one, which if anybody's built one will know it's a little bit of a handful, and the instructions are awful. But now we don't have Kitty Hawk anymore. That is now the only F-35B around, and obviously it's great that it's got all the various bits and pieces and it's bang up to date. I will be getting them down next week so we can get a review of those sorted. And again, the Flying Bomb, this is the big one for the V1. This is the 1/35th scale, so it's huge. It's a big old lump, as we were saying. And if you did want something to go alongside it, we also do the V1 Flying Bomb with the interior, so it's got all the internals as well to show it as a cutaway. And again, as we said on Wednesday, the 432s are back in stock as well. So we've got the Bulldog and obviously the Mark II as well down in here. So if you want to grab any of those ones, they are back in stock. You can grab those right now. Like we said before, we've got lots of stuff coming in at the moment. So there'll be more stuff coming out next week. Yeah, it's literally gone crazy. Talk about from literally in the doldrums of having nothing to talk about to we've got an absolute ton of it. Speaking of which, the special offers have been updated as well. So again, just down in here, we got some fantastic ones up with you. So we got the Land Rover. This is the 109. So it's a long wheelbase of the series. I do believe that's the Series 3 down in there. So very nice to see that one in. And again, we've got some of the Edard newish releases up as well. And as you can see, some others have been added down to here. Also, we got some of the AMK Foxhounds. So we've got the different flavours of those, and with the I can't remember which one it is now. The radar system for the actual Tomcat in as well. Oh yeah, the APG 71 or the OG 9. So obviously you got both the new and the old type of the radar sets down in there as well if you wanted the upgrade for those. The Airwolves, which we've spoken about a lot, obviously they're on specials. You can read all about this or hear about it on the Wednesday show. But again, new load of specials just up in there. All right, so we've got lots of those on at the PM store. And obviously the Mega store is still being done. We've added a load more into here as well. So we've got some of the scimitars are in here. We've obviously got the F4s in here and a few of the other bits and pieces. You can see we've got some nice Hasegawa. We've got the Liberator. We've got the J. We've got the Hasegawa F35B. I built that kit. It's a video build. It is a brilliant kit. It's like Bandai. It's fantastic. Personal favourite of mine, just because of the colour scheme, is that gorgeous twin pin. Down in there from the Australia one. That looks absolutely fantastic. Or as you say, you've got the Israeli one as well, and a few of the other bits down in here that we've added. So if you want to get any of these, you can grab these. These are all 25% off, and they're all brand new kits as well. So if you want to grab any of these, you can do. They are up on the sale right now. The store's also had a full restock of paints. Some various bits and pieces are in, and I think the thinners are due in early next week. So I know we're out of thinners in a few cases. They are literally due in next week as well. So with those are on order and be with us very, very shortly. But if you want all your paints, all your sundries, and all the early stuff, they are down in here as well. You can go off and get any of those. And that was this week. I have to say, it's great that we're getting new kits coming out and new releases, because I went through all the summer doing stuff from my stash, and Mikey sent me some over from the US for the monogram stuff, which is great to review and to have a look back at. But I was actually scratching for kits to review at one point. I'm working my way through my stash of old stuff we haven't seen. So it's great to see, with obviously things are moving along. Now we're getting into sort of, Q3, coming up for Q4. The new releases are piling in as well. So it's great to see the Buccaneer. Really looking forward to seeing that one, and obviously that F35B. So we get those kits down for review ASAP, and I'll be doing those just as soon as I can. And that is about it from me. Thank you very much for joining us this week. It's an absolute pleasure as always. I'm going to leave you with your great work from the gallery. So until next week, everybody, happy modelling. Take care.
I was not ready to fall in like I'm wasted. My heart grows heavy. Don't taste me rushing and keep your words naked. You got me blushing. And you forever I'll follow. You'll be my holy ground. You forever I'll follow. In immortality, I can see you and me free. In immortality, I can see you and me free. You left me crying and running through a ghost town, alone and stranded. Why leave me hoping and guessing for the answer?